had a lot of trouble just seeing groups of kids. I was very overwhelmed. What? How are you? Now, well, at least what worked for years and years, it's not something I'm entirely proud of. Hello, welcome back to my channel. My name is Karina and I am an SLPA sharing speech, my family, and lifestyle here on YouTube. I do feel like it's been a long time. I'm gonna jump straight into today's video and I am sharing with you guys how I work with mixed speech groups. Now, what I mean by mixed speech groups is typically, like in the school setting for sure, I do see kids in groups of 2, 3, or 4, sometimes more. And that's not to say I don't work in individual sessions as well. For those mixed speech groups, a lot of the times it's not very likely that I'm going to see kids with the exact same goals, right? If I have, let's say, Bobby with artic goals, and then I have Susan in the same grade level that I'm seeing, chances are Susan is not also going to have the same artic goals as Bobby does, or chances are they're not even going to both be articulation. They're both going to be very different. One might be, working on their R and their S sound, and the other one might be forming grammatical sentences, working on pronouns. Like, that's just reality, and it's the nature of this job. So I am going to share with you guys what I used to do in the very beginning as like a brand new SLPA working in the school setting, and then what I did for a while and I found to be working, and then what I've recently switched and what is working very well now with my students, and they love it. So when I first began years ago, this was now 4 years ago, I had a lot of trouble just seeing groups of kids. I was very overwhelmed by having to learn so many names and so many goals and put a face with the name and the goals, and I was like, there's no way I'm ever going to memorize these goals. There's no way I'm going to know Karina works on forming grammatical sentences and fluency and her R sound. It was just a lot. So what I did, and I found that really helped me, was getting an index card. And I encourage you to do the same if you are on this boat. Get an index card and write down every kid's name. I know it sounds tedious, but it's gonna help you in the long run. You write down every kid's name, and then I wrote down all of their goals. So if they had 5 goals, I was writing down every single goal. If they had 2, I would write them down. Whatever the case was, I was writing it down on an index card. And then when I pulled them for the first couple of weeks for speech therapy, I was putting the index card directly in front of them. That way, when we're speaking or playing a game, I was able to just kind of walk around and see, oh, okay, this is Karina. Oh, this is the one that works on her R sound and her S sound. Or this is Bobby, and he's the one who has fluency, goals. So that's what I really had to do for a while. And it did, yes, take a few weeks, but it worked out very well because now I think, I know everyone's goals like by heart. If you ask me about little Bobby now, I could be like, oh yeah, he's here and he can do this and he can't do this, and here's his strengths, his weaknesses. Like, it just comes very naturally now. So I do encourage you to do that. That's something that helped me in the very beginning. Hi, let me pause it. What? How are you? Hi, it's such a bright light, I know. It's so bright. I went ahead and just turned on the light because my son is now awake from his nap and I am using his space. So I left off on talking to you guys about what I used to do and what really helped me as a first year SLPA in the school setting. I highly recommend you all do something similar, like set up a system where you're learning their goals and really building that rapport in the beginning. I think that's what really helped me learn faces with their goals and see like where they are in terms of like speech data, speech progress and stuff. So that's what I used in the very beginning to help me figure all that out, and it helped me really get organized and once again put the name to a face and all that. Now, well, at least what worked for years and years, it's not something I'm entirely proud of, but I kind of had to split up my time when it came to working in speech groups, okay? And this is coming from someone who has worked in a group of up to 6 different students. Again, not something I'm proud of. It's just the nature of the job, something that I've had to do in the past. So when you have like a big group like that, even a minimum of 2, I feel like it's really difficult to get any sort of data when you're not working with both of them, like eye contact, when you're not really, like, I don't know the right term, when you're not entirely focused on someone, I feel like it's apparent, right? It's obvious to kids as well. If I'm, for example, working on Bobby's goals and I just have Susan kind of playing there, she's going to start questioning, like, why am I coming to speech? Or why are you not working with me? Or why is he getting all the attention? Why does he get to choose this and that? They pick up on those things. So when I'm working on goals, again, with a group of 2 all the way up to 6 people, I've had to split up my time in the past. And this looks different depending on the day, depending on attendance, depending on their behavior that day. Splitting my time in a speech session may look like one entire day I'm working on only Susan's goals. And then the next day I'm working entirely for that entire session on only Bobby's goals. Or it might look like for 15 minutes, I'm working on Susan's goals, and the other half we're working on Bobby's goals. It's just in one speech session. Let's say I have 2 kids. I will put a timer on my phone for 15 minutes. So that way it's in one 30-minute session. For 15 minutes, we're doing one thing. For 15 minutes, we're doing another thing. And a lot of the times I don't tell them who I'm looking at, who I want to hear more from. I just say, okay, for the first half, we're going to work only on pronouns, and the second half, we're only going to work on grammatical sentences. And then I kind of make them overlap. I kind of make them go hand in hand. And maybe like the last 5 or 10 minutes, if we have time, or, you know, if they finish kind of early, then what I'll do is kind of do activities with both, with pronouns and then grammatical sentences to kind of blend them together. The downside to this is that they're little a lot of the time, like in kinder through 5th grade, where I have my biggest groups. It's not like I can just straight out say, hey, these 15 minutes are going to be only Susan's goals, and that's what we're going to work on, because I have to include the other child. So I can't just be kind of blunt in that way. I do have to make it fun for them still and say, okay, we're going to play a game, or we're going to do blank, 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 and you get to do this while I get to work with him. Or you get to do this and answer my questions, and in my head, I'm kind of really focusing on Bobby's goals. You know what I mean? I had to kind of get them going and get them excited about still coming to speech and participating so that they still feel included. A positive though, I think, is that, you know, typically my schedule is going by grade level. So if I'm getting like 2nd graders, Bobby and Susan are 2nd graders, then they are learning like simultaneously, or they're learning together. You know what I mean? They're in that 2nd grade group. So chances are I'm using age appropriate vocabulary, and I'm teaching things along the lines of like a 2nd grade curriculum. You know what I mean? But yes, that's something I've had to just do over the years. I have to very much split up my time. Now, you're probably wondering, like, okay, then with a group of 5 or 6 kids, what does that look like? And it's very, very difficult. Often, luckily, I don't have to have a group of 5 or 6 anymore. That's crazy. But if I have a group of maybe 4, let's say, a lot of the times I'll make some sort of game where I'll split them up into teams. That way I group, you know, similar-ish goals together. So if it's like artic and maybe, I don't know, pronouns together, and the other 2 are fluency or something along those lines, I'll kind of team them up and we get to play like a fun game. An easy way to kind of go about this in larger groups, maybe 3, 4, 5 kids. Hopefully you don't have to go as high as 5 or 6, right? But if you have a group of a lot of kids in one speech session, I find it very easy to just use any sort of board game. Let's say, for example, Chutes and Ladders. You kind of have them play as they usually would. You can read them the directions. Hopefully they've already played Chutes and Ladders before. But what you could do here is, before everyone takes a turn or before everyone gets to roll the dice, whatever it is, they have to answer a question. That's an easy way to get some speech data on every kid. You know, I could ask Bobby, hey, if he's working on R's, give me, or tell me the word rat, you know, 5 times. Okay, rat, 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 rat. Okay, go ahead, you roll the dice, spin the spinner, whatever you gotta do, and take your turn. Susan's turn. Okay, Susan, now give me a sentence with the word rat, a grammatical sentence. Okay, she goes ahead. Karina, now it's your turn, and Karina's goal is fluency, something having to do with stuttering. I might say, oh, tell me about a time that you saw a rat, or a time that you were scared of a rat, or a story that you've heard about a rat. So I can get some data on Karina. Maybe the last student is, I don't know, describing. I might say something like, okay, tell me what a rat looks like, or ask them more questions. So that's an easy way to turn any board game into speech game, especially when working in a group. However, I found that wasn't the best for me, because then it's like fun every single speech session. And yes, while I really want it to be fun for kids and I want them to enjoy their speech time, I find that when I play games like that very, very often, they start to lose respect for me. They start to lose kind of respect for speech. They kind of start to lose that respect for the time that they're coming for speech. They start to think it's just to play games and we can act out and we can be rowdy, we can be funny and not really follow any rules. So I try to do games here and there, not as often as I used to. What I have found that works lately, and I'm really excited to continue practicing this, is stations. So I actually came across this idea from an SLPA friend, and she shared that she heard someone else talk about stations in speech therapy. Now, at first, when I heard this, I was like, oh, I'm only seeing these kids for 30 minutes. How are stations really going to work? How is that going to work in my favor, at least? It's such a limited amount of time that they'd be at each station, and how am I going to keep up with data and stuff? So I did a little trial, and I did it with my 5th graders recently. I did record this for you all, so I'm excited to share next. I went ahead and did 3 small stations at just my table. And luckily it worked out because I only see 3 kids in this speech group. And I have one particularly addressing WH questions. And luckily I already have an iPad game that I've purchased on my iPad that targets WH questions. So I'm able to choose who, what, when. And I'm able to choose the student that I want to play. And that way the app kind of keeps up with their data. I don't have to take anything. The app does it all for me as they answer the questions. That's somewhere where I could use headphones, or I could use other things. If they still can't read, they can click on it and it reads it out loud to them. That's very minimal work on my end. Now, the other one was kind of like 2 pictures, and they get to choose 3 different settings: a zoo, the ocean, or a farm, I believe. Now this one I was kind of working more on, place this one in front of, place this one in between, in back. Behind this one I want to see blank, blank, blank. So this was all like location, 2-step direction sort of thing. And I thought that was very neat. That's something that really required me to be present and give directions, obviously. The very last station that I set up was defining different words. And these are words that we've actually covered. They are 5th grade appropriate. These are words that we've already discussed, basically. So I just wanted to play a game with one of the students. And again, this is going to require like my full attention to make sure they're not cheating, to make sure they're on task, make sure that we're playing appropriately. So I did have to kind of multitask in that sense, but I thought that was very helpful. And then I did put a timer for 10 minutes. And then after 10 minutes, what I did next was rotate them, and then I explained the directions one more time. And by the 3rd round, they all kind of knew what to do. Now, this was a lot the very first time, I'm not gonna lie. It was a lot of redirecting, it was a lot of me getting up, me making sure everyone was on task, and even though it was 10 minutes, it was kind of a lot. Because like I mentioned, I had to be in one place while being somewhere else, while making sure the 3rd one was also getting the answers either correctly, they knew what they were doing, they weren't messing up, everything was going smoothly. So it was difficult. I haven't done it again, but I will tell you, the next time I saw that group, they asked me for the stations. So I thought that was really neat that they wanted to do it again, and I thought that's something I could definitely keep going with. That's something I could keep incorporating in my speech sessions. You know, if they like it and if they're getting different benefits out of it, and then they're also working independently, I just think it's super amazing that they get to do that in one speech session. So I think it's something I'll definitely do again. I just have to try kind of going down the line. I think 5th grade was the perfect group to try that with, because they're pretty independent, they know what's expected of them, and they can kind of follow directions very well. This is not something I would immediately have started with kinder or 1st grade, because they would probably need a lot of redirecting. I think I'll keep doing kind of direct instruction or direct like therapy with them, but maybe like 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade I'll try. I think when it's too much one-on-one instruction or me just talking, it can get boring. So to kind of differentiate the instruction and like the in-speech therapy is super neat, you know, especially when they do like it. So I hope you all did find this video helpful. Once again, some things that I recommend you try in mixed speech groups are board games. But number one, no, I'm gonna rewind. You have to, I recommend at least, you do like the whole index cards. Write down their goals and their names so that you really get to know them. And remember like that face with their name and their goals and everything. Especially as they're playing games, you get to look over, kind of peek and cheat. Okay, this is what you're working on, and then keep data that way. Number 2, I highly recommend you do a board game every once in a while. It's an easy way to just target everybody's goals, especially in a group. It's a great way to keep everybody involved. It's a great way to make it fun. But like I mentioned earlier, I recommend you do it kind of once in a while, because if it's done too much, I don't really see it beneficial. 3rd, you know, you could try doing what I did, kind of splitting up your time, whether that's in days or if that's in 10-minute increments, 15-minute increments, I don't know, whatever that looks like to you, try splitting up your time. And then lastly, definitely try stations, because that's something I really liked in the one time that I did do it. But I'm sharing on here because hopefully you get to try it and hopefully it works just as well for you. So if you found this video helpful, please make sure to give my video a like and subscribe to my channel as well. It'll mean so much to me, and I will catch you all in my next one. Bye!